things in my ear yesterday, and I've been working today, so I had to hear more details that I was directly paying attention to in my ear. And I have yet to bust open the books and read the thing. Files, this the new wave of files that is out. And, well. I am not shocked. If you are shocked, it's because you didn't believe me. Granted, you also didn't believe Alex Jones, and Alex Jones was right about this, and, it's just like I didn't figure out that this was right because of what Alex Jones said. He just happened to be saying it around the same time I was looking into it in my own right. You kids don't know what it was like when the internet was the Wild West. Actually, most of you kids still do, because it was the Wild West only like fucking 8 years ago. Granted, that is such a long fucking time ago at the same time. And some people only think that the censorship stuff started in 2020. They have no idea about the pseudo-censorship that came from deplatforming, in, covert deplatforming, if you will, or organized, conspired deplatforming, like when everybody took InfoWars off their platforms at the same time kind of situation. And then there was all the covert shit. There's the way the Google algorithms would suppress things even though you told it exactly what you wanted, but something that was the most obviously accurate to the wording that you used was on page 20, and now you'll just never see it. You have to hopefully find it by cross-checking with other search engines and learning new terms to trick the algorithm because of the terms that it's been trained to fucking suppress, not to mention AI drawing context to try and fucking make you avoid all these fucking things. But eventually it becomes a fucking toss-up, because even though AI could fucking police the whole fucking thing, you'd have to fucking fry the processor making it police the whole fucking thing to distort it enough to keep you all the way away, right? If they could do that, they would have done that back when they were making simple algorithms. And even the complexity of the global internet by the year 2000, they could have done it then. Because even though it was complex, it was simple, because it's even more complex now. Not entirely sure where the population is coming from that traffics on the internet, considering the population reduction that has emerged. But here we are, and this has brought back Planet Ping Pong and Spirit Cooking are now back in context. And all the pizza jargon. We have attestations of human sacrifice, ritualistic human sacrifice, and cannibalism. It's Dionysian as well as it is Babylonian, because the Dionysian is not that far removed, to be honest, because of fuzzy things about Greek history, because of how everything was mixed with Phoenician derivative culture. There's a hint of Phoenician going on in there, and so the Greeks was their first experiment in really kind of like institutionalizing pagan gods by kind of making the temple the thing, with the god kind of being like the logo of the temple in that respect. And it was their cosmopolitan idea of doing things with the deity. And there was something functional about it. It was part of what made Greek civilization what it was. But also, it would change the myths, because your myths would not be related to your pre-written stories. How often do you ever think about your Greek pantheon in an oral tradition sourced sense of the word? Right? There's not much. There's not much. Right? Just like the Romans kind of buried the Etruscan civilization after the Etruscans had kind of saved them. That's basically another kind of Sea People's Federation, Phoenician kind of thing, right? And amongst these peoples of Sea People's Federation and Phoenicians, you've got your people that we believe are Semitic, right? There's many times on this channel I have said things like, well, you know, the Palestinians are Semitic too. I'm making an argument there for the sake of peace, not the sake of truth, if you want to be fucking 100%, because, you know, there are no descendants of Shem. You're mostly listening to fairy tale stuff that you don't fully understand, right? As well as some physiognomy stuff that we don't understand, because apparently there's a hidden hermaphroditism built into the language. There's a whole lot of things that you don't effing get, right? So if there are these descendants of Shem, they are a tight-knit, almost non-existent bloodline of sorts. You understand? Like, very thin. Because everybody's really fucking a Turkic person who's converted, and your Turkic person, you know, probably because a lot of those Turkic people is where a lot of those Phoenicians ended up going, and they're trying to reconstitute Babylon. That's that's why I'm reading the Babylon Talmud, to show you that they're trying to do Babylon. Like, the Epstein Files is, this guy was a dark magician using sorcery to bend the heads of state to his will. And he's gonna be doing that on behest of people in power of him. And right, and although liability in our fucking legal profane world is going to fall on Mossad to Israel and actors within Israel, that is still only the surface. You're literally, like, they are redressing the first veil, right? You are seeing all this shit right now because they're tearing down all the drapes and all the carpets. You're watching a stage redressing, which it's up to you how you want to respond or react or prepare for what is going on. Okay? So now you're seeing alien stuff, and now you're seeing biblical proportionary stuff, and now now you are seeing wizards, and you're seeing people like me who has the audacity to walk this earth as some sort of a wizard. Not a super powerful one, but I will be. But anyway, so all of this shit. This is the levers behind which they manipulate the people at the top, whom, if the media doesn't want to fucking die, are gonna have to fucking spin it on their behalf, who are all under the will of a handful of blackmail agents doing their dark sorcery, and using people in said sorcery and there's a lot that can be said about what isn't said and what isn't documented about what you know was said and done. You can only imagine with the horrendous level of vile detail of actual fucking monstrous subhuman behavior. Vampires are real, and the werewolves are their mortal enemy. And so that's what I'm doing. I don't have to show teeth. I don't have to bear claws. I just have to do the right thing with where I am and what I got. Isn't that right, Saul Linsky? Doing the best you can with what you got, right, Saul? Is that how that works? Saul Linsky's tactics have been breaking down, too. I feel awful. I don't like... This is the wrong way. It's unconstitutional. It's an evil way of doing things in Minnesota. But at the same time, it's a brutal lesson in the left understanding that, look, it's not that you need to learn that you don't have rights, because that may be what he means, but what I am telling you is how you ought to take that horrendous lesson. The very lesson of, haven't you learned since the good fucking shooting? Is that Saul Linsky's tactics don't work anymore. That's part of the old set design. We're redressing the set. The rules for radicals have been broken. I've exposed them on this channel personally. Whether that be the intention of the left or the right, that is what is happening. Can't be helped. Consciousness has changed. I don't know if the elites are trying to or even think they can pull another serious fucking psyop on a person like me. But my existence forces them to figure out how to do it. Or how to fucking construct a psyop to make the reason of my voice beyond your ears. That's why the Bible system is there. To rob you of any personal authority you found through your harmonic resonance with your rediscovered relationship with the higher force, which people will confuse as narcissism because of the journey of self. And you know, this is because all the healthy aspects of self and persona or ego or the shadow, you know, has all been by various different persons over a long time of psychology. Excuse me. To demonize these things by having horrendous people that are arrogant, narcissistic, being the primary examples, making sure that you have the obvious villain and then the guy who everybody loves and trusted and then betrayal, you know? You know, like through the 80s and 90s and what, you know, big tent revival fucking pastors, you know, getting torn down with their fucking their covert sex lives and all that shit. And who knows what the real story is behind all that, but whatever the real story is, the very victim of it, in his own words, didn't make a very convincing fucking argument. So you see the Loxism now. You see the Jewish supremacy. Now look, there's no way Jeffrey Epstein is practicing the Babylonian Talmud like that, right? However, because, like, somebody trying to lecture me was reminding me of, is that, oh yeah, the Talmud's a non-biased. Yes, I know it's a non-biased. That's, how could it be? It's literally your whole world, and then nothing is certain in its world, because everything is up for fucking argument, because it's a bunch of court transcripts that you have made a religious government of, with the rabbis as your goddamn fucking, what the fuck do you call a religious oligarchy, a fucking theocracy, or oligarchical theocracy, I suppose. Which it ought to. It's really more of a despotic, because, you know, the temple's high command is the Melchizedek, which comes from Zadok, in which Zadokites, or those who believe they're Zadokites since the antiquities of Josephus, believe they are the bloodline lineage of the highest priest of Israel, right? So this would be, you know, so the Melchizedek is the Pope of Judaism for how that system works, which seems to be almost a very confederated system, where the judges themselves, as the rabbis, are kind of like the king in charge, and then they kind of have a central. And then the Bible even says something about, like, how Israel's mistake is that they had a central king, and that God was saying, like, don't do it this way, but they did it anyway. Details, I can check into that later at my leisure, right? You see, I don't want to go and fucking take study and Torah classes, because then I'll end up fucking rationalizing bullshit. That's why, right? I will fucking consider, it'll force me to consider some writing in these scrolls from some rabbi as extraordinarily of the highest integrity, of the most important, of not only historical significancies, but spiritual significancies for your eternal soul. Right? And Christians think that non-Christians, and this is actually true because of programming for a lot of people that aren't Christians, right? Especially if they aren't anything legit, right? It's just like a Christian can't really argue with a Muslim or a Hindu, or they can't really argue with them because they've got scriptures and gurus and stacks of books from all their fucking prophets and gurus and things like that. And there's all these organizations, and there's money, and there's an industry, and there's a culture, and everything else from all these different things that aren't Christian or even aren't Abrahamic. But when you're an animist fucking pagan, if you're gonna be a heathen, if we're gonna be on this fucking level where we remember that it's nature, it's family, it's the community of your choice, it's not condoned or condemned to a liberal culturalism or a conservative culturalism. It's just freedom. It's just freedom without having the absence of what the Christians say is God is not the appropriate word for the higher force. It doesn't really have an appropriate word because of how I drum up my relationship with my ancestors, pulling from the Old Norse. From the Voluspa, from the Havamal, I believe that the Jinn region is an appropriate name for the higher force. It holds the same weight in context to the passages you find it as the Brahman, because it explains itself in each of those passages of being something above the gods, something transcendent of the gods, something of importance that a god goes to. Odin goes to die to the Jinn region by hanging on the tree to get the runes, because the runes are with the Jinn region at the tree. And then in the Voluspa, the Jinn region is associated with the highest decisions that are made in the court of Asgard. Right, I believe the Doom Chair, associated with the council to prepare for the Ragnarok that is in the Voluspa. Like this, the Jinn region is evoked in the Voluspa there. And I'd have to scan other places, right? Because if the translator was not thinking about the word Jinn region the way that I'm telling you right now, he's not always going to use the same English translation for Jinn region, because he may have assumed a different context, because he may not have weighed it so heavily, right? And so and so that would make, especially for saying that you don't even name it, it's not a thing to be named, it's just a description of a place. But no, it's the names, right? When I first started looking into my ancestral tradition, I didn't realize there was, like, Old Norse was such, like, that there was still so much of it, right? It looked like, seems like there's enough for, like, a couple of cool songs to be out there, and somebody used Old Norse in a movie, the Pathfinder movie with Carl Urban, which was a fucking dope-ass film. You should watch it. For fun. I'm not sure if it... I think something like that in the movie Pathfinder could somewhat be true. You know, it's kind of a Native American version of Beowulf in a slight respect. But anyway, But you can't escape this, right? You're going to be forced into three gnarly choices. You're going to have the kind of malignant, kind of bland of the nihilistic, if you will, kind of disposition of the atheist world, which you have no idea how it's, atheism in their scientific systems is kind of more like a secular kind of Judaism. All right, my signal should be perfectly fine because this tunnel should be signal set, but I'm going into a tunnel, which is a very short tunnel. So if it cuts off, I'll be right back. So yeah, there's also a kind of there's also the possibility that some of the shit in these files is AI, like where somebody at the DOJ like fucking fabricated files, maybe even from the Biden administration, and they just fabricate the files, some of it's true, and some of it's not, right? Because you got to remember the Stephen Hawking thing. Stephen Hawking didn't have a mind. His mind had been destroyed, or at least his entire ability to communicate, as in no actual functioning typing system or brain capable of operating a keyboard. There's no evidence that after it all fell apart for him, that he still had the mind that could do anything, and they use that fucking speak and spell system. They use that speak and spell system to fucking stand in for a translator, where they'd force him to fucking moan incoherently, and then while the guy's moaning incoherently, he's translating it like there's some fucking rhyme or reason to like how he speaks. It's not like there's no rhythm or cadence to it. There's no pitch and tonality. It's just like having a severe stroke and you can't fucking talk, and it's but you can't, like, you just don't have the motor functions to even fucking make it speakable, like there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Like Stephen Hawking's mind had gone a long time ago. Okay? So Stephen Hawking in there, I don't know if that's just some fucking like fan fiction or some hate fiction, anti-fan fiction, if you will. But to throw it in there is quite the absurdity, and it's part of this whole diaspora of like they're nerds. Some of them are Jews that are Loxists. You got Loxist Jews and various nerds and other kinds of like wealthy global schemers, and they can't get laid because they've got all this going on for them, but they're losers and horrible people. So who the hell was putting up all of these losers and horrible people? Because you don't just get awarded illegal bitches and hoes. Like, you don't just get awarded something that costs billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, and dozens of lives, hundreds of lives potentially, or wars in certain countries, and all sorts of, like, the effort, the hassle to cover a thing up. Like, dude, like I don't care how fucking powerful you are. You know, like, that power is given to you by people that, like, that's too much of a fucking headache. You are not all that to them. You were just all of that to the profane for them. And the only difference is that they spent a fortune propping you up. And prop up somebody the fuck else. Right? You know, this is why they're pissed off. Like, they had to abort their Turning Point fucking campaign. They're picking up the pieces of an impossible, just like, there was no way they were not fucking silencing Charlie Kirk. It was just like, it's just like, if we're silencing him, then he has to be dead. It's like, and what we don't know is was Charlie killed for real, or was Charlie killed on the down low, and was Charlie killed there if he wasn't, if he is dead now, with all the suspicious stuff in just the manner in which his death was staged. And so they've got nothing. They maybe took a short-term gamble just to see. I think they play tested it for a month, and they ate dog shit really fast. I think they expected to eat dog shit really fast. I think they were prepared for it. And this is just what they're going through. Cut the losses and fucking let fucking the bitch make her money with her cut fucking losses. This is gonna be where I try. Alright. So anyway, I need to make a pit stop, put some gas in the tank and such. So I just want to wrap it up right here before I got to go take care of these things. And there's not much more I really need to say about the Epstein matter today. Because I'm going to be working on a certain kind of schedule with a certain fucking commute. You might get more drive streams out of me right now than you're going to get Talmud readings. That might have to turn into a weekend thing for a little while, because this place is going to want me for a couple of weeks now, which is good. I've needed the money, and I expected it would have to be something along these lines. It could be a worse commute, and this is part of the game I got to play. So anyway, that's right, I was making my point about the atheism and the Jew secularism, right? Because of how they function their worldview in the material aspects of their physicists and astrophysicists and things like that. And remember, in the Talmud, it says our big deal is astronomy. And I think they mean astrology on the down low, but that's not for the profane amongst their system. Because they don't know that they are being forced into their own rituals. They just know that witchcraft is forbidden for them. So, yeah. Gonna take care of my things here. And this is why I tell you to lean into your ancestors. Right? And don't just rely on the Bible, especially if you're European, to be like, but yeah, they came down from Turkey in the mountains. Just don't fucking spittle your fucking fairy tales, all right? The Tuatha De Danann their mythology is very literal to the like no Irish pagan takes the Tuatha De Danann literally, other than maybe there were ancestors that landed there that perhaps had a similar circumstance and were like that, just like there may have been a shaman king named Odin, which Odin, the god, as a characterization is based as an ancestral important. It's all these fucking little details, all right? But it's not the fucking way they throw the book at you. All right, I'll catch you later.